Voice Live.
And welcome to America's Voice Live. I'm Steve Gruber.
The pulse of the people.
We need somebody that's going to hear the people's voice.
The truth the mainstream won't touch.
This guy is, by definition, a globalist.
And the stories that matter.
Rav's own Ben Berquam.
Right up over this hill. We got one cartel. I see him.
Live.
Breaking news right now here on Real America's Voice.
Unfiltered.
These people are domestic terrorists.
And unapologetic.
We're here to take a stand for God and country. Does feel good, doesn't it?
America's Voice Live starts now.
Welcome to America's Voice Live. I'm Steve Gruber. Today is Tuesday, the 22nd of July. We've got a lot to get through today, from the Russia collusion hoax that Obama and his Democrat minions orchestrated, to the ongoing issue with sanctuary cities, and, of course, President Trump's meeting with the president of the Philippines. Stay tuned for all of that. But I want to circle back and get started with that Russia collusion hoax, because it's the biggest story that there is today. The American people have had a mandate for the Trump administration. We want indictments. We want accountability. We want consequences for the Obama criminal enterprise that's so clearly laid out in the declassified documents from the National Intelligence Director. The Church Committee, formerly known as the Senate Select Committee to Study Governmental Operations with respect to intelligence activities, gave us a blueprint. They began this process back in 1975. It was established in response to allegations of abuse by the intelligence community. Can you imagine? Illegal spying on American citizens and the like. Sound familiar? And it concluded that Congress needs to have much more oversight on our government's decisions regarding surveillance, something that these declassified documents show that the Obama-Clinton cabal completely flew in the face of. The takeaway, when we look through that lens, this was all illegal, all of it. Highly illegal, wiretap, surveillance, spying on American citizens, because it's all off limits, my friends, and they damn well knew it. The FISA applications, especially those against the likes of Carter Page and the abuse of individuals like Roger Stone, were illegal. They were politically motivated. No justification, based on the uncorroborated, discredited Steele dossier. Roger Stone's arrest was an inhumane show of force designed to make an example out of a key Trump supporter. Roger thinks these Obama-era criminals should get a taste of their own medicine. Here's his suggestion on Twitter. Obama, Biden, Brennan, Comey, Rice, McCabe, Rosenstein, and the rest need to have 29 heavily armed FBI agency members in full SWAT gear, wearing night goggles and brandishing fully automatic M4 assault weapons, storm their homes at 6 a.m. to arrest them with a Newsmax camera right outside the door. I suggest it should be a Real America's Voice camera, but I digress. Here are the potential charges: treason or seditious conspiracy, as evidenced by the intent to undermine the U.S. government by subverting a duly elected president. Obama had the FBI do a 180 on clear evidence that Russia didn't flip the election for President Trump based on his guidance. Clapper says it was all directed by President Obama. This was him making his case in 2019. Listen closely.
And certainly those of us that she named, John Brennan and Jim Comey and I, are part of the group that were tasked by President Obama to put together all the reporting we had on the Russian interference, and which we did. President Obama directly and personally confronted Putin about the Russian interference in September and did not accept at face value Putin's protestations. John Brennan directly did the same thing with his counterpart. On October 7th of 16, we put out a statement. When I say we, Jay Johnson, then Secretary of Homeland Security, and I put out a statement, pretty forthright one, about warning of the Russian interference in our election. This was a month before the election, which unfortunately got drowned out by the Access Hollywood tape revelation. On December 29th, the administration, issued a series of sanctions. PNG, 35 Russian operatives, closed 2 dachas, et cetera. And then, of course, on January 6th, we issued our intelligence community assessment documenting the Russian interference, in which we had very high confidence in the evidence that we presented to then President-elect Trump at Trump Tower.
Yes. But what did he leave out? The presidential daily brief that asserted the opposite. So no, the group did not put together all the reporting on Russian interference, only what served their narrative. And their purpose. That leads me to the next potential charge, manipulation of intelligence, which we can clearly see. In a complete change in tune after the fateful White House meeting in the Situation Room December the 9th, the presidential daily briefing was pulled. And John Ratcliffe has suggested that John Brennan, the DNI, may have himself perjured in front of Congress, claiming that the Steele dossier was reliable when everyone knew it was a Clinton campaign fabrication bought and paid for. Declassified documents also suggest that John Brennan knew the dossier was not only unreliable, but fake. A conclusion that Comey's FBI also arrived, but pushed to include it in the intelligence community's official assessment on Russia interference in 2017 anyway. You see, they were all in on it. Every single one. But Obama was the key figure. He was the president. The maestro directing this years-long attempted coup, but he's long denied any knowledge about the Steele dossier and its financial ties to the Clinton campaign. But investigative journalist Paul Sperry, he writes for the New York Post, says he's got sources who might be able to unearth texts and emails that directly link Clinton aides with the Obama White House and the intelligence community. Direct evidence. We'll keep you posted on that one. But Obama didn't need the receipts. He just needed allegations. He just needed a distraction, a diversion, and he just needed enough cronies to parrot the talking points enough times to corrode any trust in the Donald Trump presidency. He knew what he was doing. He actually laid out the plan at an address at Stanford University several years later in 2022, while blaming Vladimir Putin and my friend and colleague Steve Bannon for being the ones enacting all of it. Here's the fabrication.
People like Putin, and Steve Bannon for that matter, understand it's not necessary for people to believe this information in order to weaken democratic institutions. You just have to flood a country's public square with enough raw sewage. You just have to raise enough questions, spread enough dirt, plant enough conspiracy theorizing that citizens no longer know what to believe. Once they lose trust in their leaders, in mainstream media, in political institutions, in each other, in the possibility of truth, the game's won. And as Putin discovered leading up to the 2016 election, our own social media platforms are well designed to support such a mission, such a project.
One lie after another, and the deep state cronies have been pumping that raw sewage into the public discourse ever since, every chance they get. Here's Virginia's Democrat candidate for governor, a member of Congress, Abigail Spanberger, throwing as much dirt as she can on Tulsi Gabbard before Tulsi was confirmed. Listen to this.
The reason that this nomination, I think, is so dangerous is because any damage that she would do, any information she would provide the president, right? She tweets Russian propaganda. Why not include it in the presidential daily brief? She traffics in conspiracy theories. Why not kind of push that into the greater ecosystem of intelligence? And none of that would ever be seen by the public. There's no opportunity to push back. There's no opportunity to understand. And frankly, even just a lack of understanding of and respect for how it is that the intelligence community works could really, truly undermine not just our ability to collect information, but our ability to work with partner nations where information exchanges keep us safe. Yeah. And you know, there could be long-term damage to capabilities and methods that we use, you know, from whatever point in time, if she were to be confirmed into the future, and virtually, you know, very few people would know. And so the damage could just be catastrophic for our nation's own national security. And this isn't political. It's not a partisan issue. It's not about party or the president-elect. It's about our national security.
Yeah, telling the truth could be catastrophic. Abigail wants us to trust her because she's former CIA. That's about as deep state as it gets. And it's clear why she didn't want Director Gabbard at the helm, because she is willing to expose these people and show us the truth. The director is actually committed to shining light on the abuses of her predecessors in an attempt to make sure they never happen again. And she's not alone in her attempts. She says that ever since the declassifying of these documents, whistleblowers are coming out of the woodwork left and right to share their stories, something that they were scared to do under the last administration, of course, and rightfully so. The snowball, it's rolling, and it's picking up steam as it goes downhill every single day. Attorney General Pam Bondi also exposing the same criminals for other acts of this despicable conspiracy. In a newly declassified annex to the Office of Inspector General report on the DOJ and the FBI's handling of the investigation to Hillary Clinton's email server, we now know the FBI failed to fully investigate all the evidence. They just didn't look at it. They didn't care. They didn't want to. There were think about this. There were additional thumb drives from a source during the investigation that James Comey, Peter Strzok, and Andrew McCabe, among others, refused to investigate, even though the drives reportedly contained information relevant to the investigation. They just flat out ignored it, folks. They didn't want to see it. They didn't want to know about it. Knowledge can be a problem, you see. A drafted FBI memo recommended that the drives be searched, but they never were. And the Inspector General's office shows that the drives contain, quote, highly sensitive information exfiltrated from U.S. government agencies, including the Department of State, as well as then President Barack Obama's emails and potentially congressional information, too. So, more damning evidence could be out there. Yeah, certainly. And now CIA Director John Ratcliffe hit the nail on the head all the way back in 2016 while questioning then FBI Director James Comey in concluding that it seems that the FBI already had decided not to prosecute Hillary Clinton before ever looking at the evidence, or ignoring the evidence, as it were. Remember this?
Last question, and I think that's important. At this point, based on everything, do you think that any laws were broken by Hillary Clinton or her lawyers?
Do I think that any laws were broken? Yeah. I don't think there's evidence to establish that.
Okay. Well, I think you're making my point when you say there's no evidence to establish that. Maybe not in the way she handled classified information, but with respect to obstruction of justice. And you've got a pen here. I just want to make sure the record's clear about the evidence that you didn't have, that you can't use to prove. So this comes from the FBI's own report. It says that the FBI didn't have the Clintons' personal Apple server used for Hillary Clinton work emails. That was never located, so the FBI could never examine it. An Apple MacBook laptop and thumb drive that contained Hillary Clinton's email archives was lost, so the FBI never examined that. 2 BlackBerry devices, provided the FBI didn't have SIM cards or SD data cards. 13 Hillary Clinton personal mobile devices were lost, discarded, or destroyed with a hammer, so the FBI clearly didn't examine those. Various server backups were deleted over time, so the FBI didn't examine that. After the State Department and my colleague, Mr. Gowdy, here notified Ms. Clinton that her records would be sought by the Benghazi Committee, copies of her emails on the laptops of both of her lawyers, Cheryl Mills and Harold Mills, and Heather Samuelson, were wiped clean with bleach bits, so the FBI didn't review that.
And look, this goes on and on and on. You'd think with all that missing evidence, they'd want to do a thorough search, see what they had their hands on, what they didn't. But we now know, thanks to the efforts of Senator Chuck Grassley, who has been asking the DOJ to declassify this annex since 2018, that they just disregarded the evidence. They got rid of it. The entire annex shows that these conspirators, and that's what they are, co-conspirators, didn't take the investigation seriously. And I think time will continue to prove that it's because they were in it together. So I reiterate, we want indictments. We want people held accountable. We want to end the 2-tier system of justice in America. We don't care how rich or how powerful or how well-placed you are. Damn it, we need results. The evidence is there. We all know it. We knew it then. We know it now. Let's get it done. After the break, I'll continue the discussion of the Russia collusion hoax, biggest scandal in American history. It is the crime of the century, folks. More details straight ahead on America's Voice Live. won't surprise you at all, I realize, but the legacy media, the mainstream media, the drive-by media have dedicated almost zero time to Tulsi Gabbard referring to the Department of Justice for criminal prosecution. All of these files, 100-plus pages of information, evidence, we call it where I come from. I'd like to continue the discussion on the Russia collusion hoax that former President Barack Obama, along with his administration, orchestrated, apparently, in order to create the false narrative that Russia influenced the 2016 election, something that's patently false and was disproven time and again. President Trump addressed these concerns earlier today in a meeting with the president of the Philippines. Look what he said.
It's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. So people say, oh, you know, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level.
At the highest level, and he's right. It's time we start going after people that are lying to the public for political power and money, of course. Joining me now to discuss is former Defense Intelligence Agent Ivan Raiklin and former FBI Special Agent Steve Friend. Gentlemen, thanks for being here. Steve, let me start with you. You've seen the evidence. You've seen what Tulsi Gabbard's put forward. You've seen the documents that we've all been able to see and sift through. It's a pile of evidence, Steve. It's almost to the point of irrefutable at this point, is it not?
It is indeed a pile of evidence that's existed and been known to people within different spheres in Washington, D.C. for quite a long time now. I mean, almost 10 years at this point. I'm relieved to see this information get pushed out, and it's good to be vindicated if you've been arguing for things that we all knew to be true. And now the onus is going to be on the Department of Justice to pursue a legal and quick investigation and prosecution of the case. There is an uphill battle. I mean, not going to lie, it's going to be a challenge. You're going to be in the District of Columbia, which by and large supports most of the communist left in this country. But at the same time, that doesn't negate your responsibility to the American people to do and follow the process involved with this. And if, in fact, there are actual charges at this point, then they need to be pursued.
Yeah, incredibly important. Ivan, I want you to discuss this. Look, the Church Committee back in the 1970s got together because they were concerned about spying on American citizens. They were concerned about violations of civil rights and laws by the intelligence community all over America. And they came out with several recommendations. That's why there's supposed to be criminal activity was supposed to be stopped. And in fact, everything they described back then and codified into law in the late 1970s looks like it was violated here. These are real crimes by real high, powerful people in America. What's the remedy?
Yeah, I just want to echo both of you and say that, yeah, it was a steaming pile of treason, okay? And at the end of the day, and one other point I wanted to make before answering that is that I think there may be a jurisdictional hook in Eastern District of Virginia because the CIA headquarters and John Brennan was working out of Northern Virginia. Also, you have the ODNI located also in Northern Virginia. So rather than having in a, like Steve said, 96% communist Washington, D.C., how about putting it in a maybe 60 to 70% jurisdiction that's kind of communist takeover? I think we would have a possible better result.
There, Ivan. Let me do you one better right there. The raid on Mar-a-Lago happened in the state of Florida. If it happened as part of this conspiracy, that
yes.
means you can go to the state of Florida and file these charges. I'm sorry to get ahead of you, but that is incredibly important. Wherever these crimes may have occurred, that opens up jurisdictional opportunities, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And what is the remedy? The remedy is obviously I think the biggest point here is a lot of us have already investigated, and the evidence has already been clear to many of us. I've been very intimately involved in looking at the last 10 years conspiracy with the CIA, the FBI, senior leadership, and others within the White House that were behind this seditious conspiracy. I think Tulsi Gabbard calls it the treasonous conspiracy. I haven't read the criminal referrals. I'm not sure if those are public yet that she has sent over. But I would recommend also, in addition to that, not only do you send those criminal referrals to the Department of Justice at the federal level, but there are instances where especially going back to that Virginia hook, I think there's an opportunity to send these criminal referrals in terms of violating Commonwealth of Virginia statutes to include those that are related to treason. Because at the end of the day, not only did it subvert the federal government, and I believe those criminal referrals based on Tulsi's language that she's been using on media, but also in Virginia. And I would say this, that September 19th is early voting in Virginia to reelect Attorney General Jason Miyares. And I argue the point that if he doesn't arrest any of these conspirators by September 19th, it begs the question, does he deserve a reelection?
Well, fair. If that's okay, that's a fair question. Look, I'm looking at the violations. Fourth Amendment, First Amendment. Federal crimes would include wiretapping, electronic surveillance, conspiracy, obstruction of justice. Espionage Act violations are clearly here. Mail tampering, conspiracy against rights, deprivation of rights under the color of law, perjury, unauthorized human experimentation. These are all things, right? All these different things that went on that could possibly be involved here, Steve. I mean, this is a laundry list of you can't do these things. And either we have a two-tiered system of law in this country or we do not. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that the last point you made there is the ultimate question here. Look, there's no question that this administration fumbled on the Epstein stuff, and maybe this is perhaps an opportunity to get off the X on that one, off the spotlight, but actually raises the same concern that was around Epstein, and that is the question of, do we in fact have a two-tiered system of justice? They voted present, clearly, with Epstein, and they didn't give us a resolution. But here, in fact, the onus is on the DOJ. Answer the question, are you going to conduct a lawful investigation and actually try to hold people accountable regardless of the outcome of it? The process is your job. And if, in fact, you're not willing to do that, then when we get the unfortunate answer that, in fact, that there are two-tiered system of justice in this country and the elites tend to get away with everything that they want to.
Yeah, fair enough. Ivan, give me your final thoughts here today. I wish we had more time, but where are we? I mean, obviously, several more steps to go in this process, and we're going to follow it every step of the way because we do want to see action. We want to see indictments. We want to see prosecution. We want to see results. If you did this or I did this, there'd be real consequences. We want the same. Give me your final word.
Just real quick, 2 points. The first point is that January 6ers, 6 months into the Biden illegitimate regime, there were already hundreds that were raided and arrested. And thank you to Steve for basically saying, I'm not going to participate in that unlawfulness. Mad respect for that. Second point is that, I mean, at the end of the day, how long does it take to go into the necessary threshold to start arresting these folks? And I recommend not 6 a.m. It should be at 3 a.m. because then it's safer for both parties because you're going to be asleep.
You know, it's kind of funny. Didn't Hillary Clinton say if the phone rings at 3 a.m.? Yeah. The FBI's in the yard. Steve Friend, last word to you.
Agreed, but as always, process is paramount here, and I'd like to see that effort, the old college try on this. This is information the American people know, and they're going to demand that answer here. We gave them a mulligan in short order, and let's get the DOJ held to account.
Yeah. Gentlemen, thank you for being here. Greatly appreciate your time. Ivan, Steve, we'll talk again soon, my friends. Thank you so much. Like Roger Stone says, maybe it should just be there with those agents in black boots and come right through the front door. All right, coming up after the break, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem hammering Democrats' policies with sanctuary cities after a CBP agent shot in the face. You heard this story, of course, in New York City over the weekend. He shot back effectively, I might add. More on that coming up next. morning news brief Monday with the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and Tom Homan announcing the arrest of a second suspect in the shooting of that off-duty Customs and Border Protection agent. Noem blamed Joe Biden and sanctuary city policies. Here she is.
That's our mission every day, is to make sure that we're not going to do what Joe Biden did or what these sanctuary politicians do. They decide who has to be a victim and who doesn't be a victim when they pick and choose who they're going to uphold the law against and who they're not going to. And many times their policies have treated illegal criminals better than they have U.S. citizens. It's wrong and it needs to stop. And this situation on Saturday night where our officer was shot and wounded and hurt and is in the ICU right now in the hospital fighting for his life, that had to happen because it shouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened if we would have had the right leadership in the city.
Yeah. The unnamed officer ambushed Manhattan's Fort Washington Park happened Saturday night by an illegal Dominican national, Miguel Francisco Mora Nunez. Another illegal was with him driving the moped before he got off. Then he was dumped in a hospital. The officer shot in his right arm and left cheek in a stable condition at the hospital. The CBP agent returned fire, wounding one of those suspects. Like I said, suspect was arrested when he sought medical treatment. Frankly, he was dumped in the parking lot, if you've seen the video, by his other buddy who fled. Nunez arrested four times since entering the United States in April of 2023, released with a court date, never showed up. Second illegal, Dominican Christian Abar Baroa. He entered the U.S. in 2022, ordered for final removal in 2023. Noem said New York City's and the Mayor Eric Adams' administration policies were to blame in part. They ignored the illegals' detainers. By the way, the mayor changing his policies now said he'll work with Tom Homan and ICE. Good idea when you're running for re-election. You know, since Donald Trump was sworn in, his administration has made enormous progress at a breakneck pace. Don't forget, while they're moving mountains for the good of the nation, they can't also take your personal savings into account. You have to do that. One of the best ways to look after your money is through diversification, particularly with gold from my trusted friends at Birch Gold Group. In the past 12 months, the value of gold has increased by 40%. Central banks continue to bolster demand for gold by buying in record quantities. Global instability and tension is the highest in decades. Birch Gold makes owning physical gold extremely easy. Easily convert an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in physical gold, or buy something you can store in a safe home safe. Yeah, just text the word America to the number 989898, and Birch Gold will send you a free information kit on gold. No obligation, just useful information. Pretty cool, right? With an A+ rating at the Better Business Bureau, thousands of satisfied customers. Take control of your savings and your future today. Text the word America to 989898. We'll be right back. President Trump met with the Philippines president earlier today, where he discussed trade talks amid the tariff deadline, as well as concerns with China, of course. Details with Brian Glenn straight ahead. White House today. President Trump hosting the president of the Philippines, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., happened earlier today. The meeting between the two is related to tariffs. First and foremost is President Trump's Liberation Day tariff rates that are set to take effect on August 1st. See a 20% charge on Filipino goods unless the two can sit down and work out a deal. China was also the topic of discussion as the CCP has asserted a more aggressive presence in the Scarborough Shoal, that is, a sovereign area that the Chinese government has had its eyes on due to its strategic location and potential mineral resources. President Trump also addressed relations with China and the Philippines. Here's what he said.
And I don't mind if he gets along with China, because we're getting along with China very well. We have a very good relationship. In fact, the magnets, which is a little complex piece of material, but the magnets are coming out, very well. They're sending them in record numbers. We're getting along with China very well, and I don't mind if the president dealt with China. If that's meant, Chris, I think he has to do what's right for his country. I've always said, make the Philippines great again. Do whatever you need to do, but you're dealing with China wouldn't bother me at all.
All right, doesn't bother him at all. Real America's Voice Chief White House correspondent Brian Glenn on hand at the White House today, sat in on the meeting and joined me now to discuss. Brian, nice to see you. Man, sparks flew a little bit in there when he was asked about Epstein, and he shifted gears to Barack Obama. Fiery day with the president. What can you share?
Yeah, fiery day with the president. It was interesting, the interaction that he had with the president of the Republic of the Philippines, some of the back and forth that he had with them, and of course later on announcing that tariff about 19.2%, or well, let's just round it up to 20% tariff with Philippines. But the Epstein stuff, we knew the Epstein topic would come up in this press conference, and it did. And of course he did shift over to all of the stuff that we knew back in the day. Steve, we knew the Russiagate, who was all behind that, and now Obama kind of seems to be the puppet master of all of this, and Tulsi Gabbard, perhaps the Steele dossier coming full to light in all of this. So he did pivot to that. But I'll go back to what I've been saying the last couple of days, Steve. The base, we simply want to see accountability for what has been weaponized against the American people and against President Trump. And we're still waiting for handcuffs on Hillary Clinton. I'm still waiting for that subpoena that she avoided for the bleach bit, the computers, and smashing up the cell phones and all that stuff. We never saw any accountability for that. So the base very much wants this latest attempt to drag these people to justice. So we'll see if it happens, but there's certainly a big call for it.
Well, there's a big call to get a lot of these judges confirmed as well, but it doesn't seem to matter to Congress. I hear they're going home for 41 days starting Thursday. Did I get that right?
You did. Now, Congress is going home. Now, Trump did ask for the Senate to stay in session so they could work on some of this stuff. But I got to tell you, Steve, I will say this. Steve Scalise's office is in charge of the scheduling. So if anybody's mad about Congress going out of session until early September, direct your anger to your constituent or to your representative, or rather to maybe his office. I'm not saying that everybody should call his office. I'm just saying that's who's responsible. Now, what is coming up, Steve, that no one's talking about is that they have to vote for another CR when they come back into session in September. And that was a hard line for many representatives back when they did the first one early on in this year. They said, absolutely, we are not doing another one. Well, guess what, Steve? When they come back from that August recess, that should be the first point of order that Speaker Johnson would put on there. Let's start working out these appropriation bills, because sending another CR down the road is not a very popular thing right now on the Hill.
It's not a very popular thing. We got the big, one big beautiful bill through. That's all fine and well. Run their decision package through. I hear another one worth about $10 billion is going to go through, taking money away from the Department of Education. So that's on the horizon. But it is infuriating to a lot of people that Mike Johnson and Steve Scalise, or whoever sets the schedule, I don't care. I'm not going home for 41 days. Are you? That's just the takeaway. Working Americans are working, and they work for us. And okay, maybe they have to come back to their district and talk to people, but that's not really what's going on. It's just coast time. We don't have time to coast in America. That's why people are upset, Brian.
No, I totally get it. And for someone who knows directly what people do when they're not in Congress, yes, many of them go back to their districts, to their district office, go see the constituents, hold town halls. I'm a big advocate of town halls, not these virtual bullcrap, telephone town halls. Get in person. Talk to your constituents, listen to them, how you should vote in their concerns. I'm a big fan of that, Steve. So I hear you. A lot of people are not they're not taking this early departure of canceling votes on Thursday and going back to the district. I don't understand the reasoning behind it, but it is what it is. But certainly if you have any problems with it, I just...
Speculation. Yeah, speculation on social media is so they can avoid this Epstein vote of forcing the release of the Epstein documents. But on the other side of that, Ghislaine Maxwell, that's apparently going to be meeting with members of the Department of Justice to discuss what she might say if she's brought forward and how that might play out. That's kind of a big, important development, because one of the sore spots for the Trump supporters, is also the release of the Epstein information, whether you call it a file or whatever you want. People want transparency. They want to know who were the criminals, who were the pedophiles, who were the sexual, predators, and they want them held accountable, right?
Yeah, and Jamie Comer, the chairman of that oversight committee that has called for that subpoena to come in and testify, we don't necessarily know if the Division of Prisons, or if she would even be allowed to exit prison to come for this hearing. So there's a lot of details in that. But if she was to sit down in front of a hearing, and you and I have seen numerous oversight hearings and other hearings on the Hill, that would probably be standing room only for that, because a lot of people have some questions, and I would imagine she wants to answer them. Now, I'm hearing reports that she is in fear of her life. She is in fear of her safety, knowing that how big this story is outside that prison cell that she lives in right now. So you've got that, enter the picture of, Epstein and all the mysterious issues, the questions they have around his death. I mean, I can't help but think, Steve, that might be on her mind too, if she was to come forward.
Well, I don't know, if she were to testify in public, that would be the biggest circus in a long time, and that's saying something, all right?
I agree.
But if she gives a deposition or goes behind closed doors, that would be an important first step. We'll see how that plays out. A lot happening, of course. The news cycle doesn't get boring there for you, does it? I think that, people are watching not only the Obamagate scandal, the auto pen scandal, the Epstein scandal, and everything else. Brian, never a dull moment. I'll give you the last word.
No, there's not. There's never a dull moment. I will say this. In that Oval Office, I asked President Trump about a new bill that's being introduced. It's got to go through rules, get everybody to sign on it. It has no tax for home sales, for capital gains for your primary home. This is huge. Talk about no tax on tips,
that would be
overtime,
huge.
Social Security. That would be huge. But President Trump, in the very infant stages of learning about this bill. So if he gets a hold of this thing and puts a stamp of approval on it, I can see Congress getting it through rules, voting for it, sent to the Senate. That's going to open up the housing market, Steve. It's going to be huge. I heard today there was a big National Realtor Association was on the Hill talking to people of Congress saying, we got to get this bill passed. So
first I've heard of it, and I've got to say this, the house that people live in is oftentimes their biggest asset. Not always, but oftentimes.
Yep.
Usually is. And if they can sell it without a tax implication and no capital gains because you bought it in 1970 for $100,000 and sold it for $1 million this year, that's a big deal, Brian. All right, we'll keep an eye on that. Brian Glenn,
it is
right there at the White House. Thank you, Brian. Don't go anywhere. America's Voice Live will continue after a short commercial break. Filing your taxes, never easy, not a streamlined process. If your books are a mess, it's a headache. However, the team at Tax Network USA recognizes this and offers customers access to an expert team who use IRS-backed strategies to ensure customers feel safe and secure when it comes to tax preparation, as well as resolving back tax issues. Here with me now to discuss is Tax Network USA spokesperson Cameron Kinsey. Cameron, nice to see you again. Always lovely.
Thanks for having me, Steve. Good to see you as well.
Always a pleasure. Lay it out for the folks. What does Tax Network USA have to offer folks that are sitting there right now going, man, I got to file my taxes. I haven't done it in a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it may be. Where do you start?
Yeah, great question. Tax Network USA is one of the top tax relief firms in the country. We've helped everyday Americans, business owners deal with the IRS, whether that's audits, whether that's back taxes, wage garnishments. Our team includes CPAs, enrolled agents, tax attorneys who really just know how to fight back and who know how to win. So no matter who's in office, the IRS often stays aggressive. So we're here to protect people from getting buried under the weight of bloated government overreach.
Yeah, it's incredibly important. What sets your, I mean, you hear different folks offering this sort of thing, but what sets Tax Network USA apart from everybody else?
Well, we don't just file your taxes. We go to bat for you. A lot of firms will charge you up front. They give you generic advice. They disappear when it really matters. We're different. We've saved clients over $1 billion in back taxes. Our team has years of experience negotiating directly with the IRS. We also share the same values as the people that we serve. Probably many of the people watching right now, we believe in limited government, less bureaucratic red tape, and protecting people from unnecessary overreach, like I mentioned. So our approach reflects that. It's straightforward. It's efficient, and it's on your side. So no gimmicks, no red tape over here, just trying to deliver a real solution for you.
Yeah, let's talk about your clients. I mean, you've done this and helped countless people. We know that. But is there a typical client? Is it somebody that owes $10,000? Is it a business owner that owes $100,000? What is the typical client?
Well, we've helped just about every type of client that you can imagine, from salaried employees, retirees, to high earners, entrepreneurs, small business owners. We've even helped corporations clean up payroll tax messes as well. So if you're in trouble with the IRS, chances are we've probably handled a case like yours. And even if you've missed a deadline, you're already facing collections, it's not too late for you. But the sooner you reach out, the more options that we do have to protect you.
Yeah, there you go. What advice would you give somebody? They're struggling. They're listening right now. They've got tax debt. I mean, they're lying awake at night. They're afraid to go to the mailbox. The IRS is, on them. Their life's a wreck. I mean, yeah, it's just stressful. What do you tell them?
It is stressful, but I would just say don't wait. Don't toss those letters in a drawer and hope it goes away. The IRS counts on people who are panicking, maybe even procrastinating, and that's really how penalties pile up. So it's very important to get a team behind you who knows how to negotiate, who knows how to reduce what you owe, who knows how to put a real plan in place. And that's really what we do at Tax Network USA. You've got more options than you think, but timing is everything in this case.
Yeah, there you go. All right, so let's talk about documentation, because that's a big problem for folks. It's what makes them go, I can't call the IRS. My stuff is a mess. I've got a shoebox here and a drawer there and a file that's out of control. What do they need?
Yeah, you'll want to gather all any recent tax returns, W-2s, 1099s, any IRS letters, financial records, anything that maybe show hardship like medical bills, proof of income loss. But don't worry if you don't have it all organized. That's actually a part of what we do. Don't panic if you don't have it all gathered either. If documents are also missing, our team can assist clients in obtaining copies of that from the IRS or other sources. So we are focused on building a case that puts you in the strongest position possible.
There you go. If you want to find out more, go to Tax Network USA. That's tnusa.com/RAV, or call 1-800-905-8000 to talk to an expert today. Cameron, always appreciate you stopping in. Appreciate everything that you do. Thank you so much to Tax Network USA. Thank you. All right, one more time. Go to tnusa.com/RAV, or you can call 1-800-905-8000. Talk to an expert. Don't sit there and say, I don't know what to do. I'm telling you what to do. tnusa.com/RAV, or call 1-800-905-8000. Don't put it off anymore, because the letters aren't going to stop. The stress isn't going to stop. All right, when we come back, your favorite part of the program, we'll tell you what reminds you of what makes America wonderful, plus your answers to our America's Voice question of the day. Do you think former President Barack Obama will face any accountability from the Russia collusion hoax? Why or why not? We've got your answers coming back, America. Don't go anywhere. All right, every day here we want to leave you with something that makes you happy. Puts a smile on your face, gives you hope in the future. What makes America wonderful? We want to make sure you know there's something here every day. That's why we want to put a smile on your face. Today's story comes to us from Raleigh, North Carolina, where a barber is actually making an impact on the community. Sylvester, or you can call him Sly Brooks, is the owner and founder of Fire Cut Studios. He found his passion for cutting hair in the most unlikely of places, that being in the Raleigh Fire Station, where he describes cutting his fellow firefighters' hair and being prompted to open up his own barber shop. Years later, Sly listened to the advice of his peers and, well, he hung up the mantle of a firefighter and is now described as a cornerstone of the community, not only for being good at cutting hair, but also for taking the time to really connect with clients as he attends his clients' personal endeavors, such as birthday parties, even going for a quick workout with some of them to the gym. However, Sly also gives back to the community. How? By offering free back-to-school haircuts every year and even buys and donates school supplies to the kids who need them to ensure they have everything they need to feel confident and prepared for that first day of school. Selflessness, a rare trait nowadays, and seeing someone who naturally invokes it is a reminder of the people who make America wonderful. God bless him. Sly, nice job. We love you for it. Do you think former President Barack Obama will face any accountability from the Russia collusion hoax? Why or why not? That's our America's Voice question of the day. Tom Henry weighs in. I would hope that he does, and why? Nobody is above the law. How many times do we hear Democrats say that? Yeah. David Nearhood, no. Because even some of the Republicans are involved in a small way, and they're afraid. Joel LaMonica shares this. No, because no one in Washington faces any accountability anymore, especially Democrats. Sean Smith, Sheltima, I don't know. Yes, I think he will. President Trump has many tricks up his sleeve. We'll see. Mike Foshi shares this. No, No Democrat does, because Republicans are gutless cowards. Man, I'd like to argue with that, Mike, but sometimes I see it and I go, you know what? There's truth. I mean, they're going home for 41 days. Is there not work to be done in the House? Aaron Adams writes this, no, because it's a good old boy network in Washington. There are probably lots guilty of who knows what. True there. Dandelion. That's cute, Dandy. Dandelion. That's cute. With all the activist judges he put in place, my fear is it's going to be a long and bumpy ride. Blanca Tapahuasco. No, too many are protecting him. A lot, apparently. Cindy Bowers has this. I don't think so, because as of yet, not a single Democrat has been prosecuted. They are above the law. Paul Floor weighing in. There is zero accountability in Washington. A lot of great answers here today, folks. Gary Slater, I don't think so, but I hope he and others do. It's needed. Indeed it is. Indeed it is. And make no mistake, we're going to cover it every step of the way here. They can ignore it at Chicken Noodle News. They can ignore it at MSNBC and CBS and ABC and all the rest. New York Times and Washington Post. They can ignore the story. We will not. We will continue to dig and follow what Tulsi Gabbard does, what the Department of Justice does, because it matters that people are held accountable. Absolutely true. Start your broadcast day here on Real America's Voice with me on the Steve Gruber Show. Happens every Monday through Friday at 6 a.m. right here. I'll get you rolling. Then back here for America's Voice Live tomorrow afternoon.